Everyone, in this video we're going to look at eliminating the inner critic and developing your inner companion. So what is this inner critic, or the critical inner voice? You hear a lot about it in the self-help, self-transformation, sort of positive psychology circles. And the point of that construct, the point of that concept, is to help you identify the sort of programming or what some call the subpersonality that sort of sounds in the background as background mental chatter and just overall diminishes or demeans or judges you in a negative way. So this is that inner critical voice that criticizes just about everything you do, whether it's your cooking or how you dress, how you drive, your, mathematical skills, you name it. This is that voice that sounds in the background that basically continually goes on loop of how you're not doing enough, you're not being enough, you don't look the right way, you don't dress the right way, you don't sound the right way, and so on. So this background chatter, this sort of internalized negative voice, is something that you have to work to eliminate from your wiring, from your neurology. And it's something that you can recognize that you can do. You can eliminate this learned way of looking at yourself in a negative light, this learned way, this programmed, conditioned way of evaluating yourself in a negative light in various facets of your life. And you have to start by understanding what the impact of this learned way of talking to yourself silently does, right? So it diminishes your flow, it diminishes your energy, it diminishes your ability to self-express freely, it diminishes your ability to emerge from within yourself, to sort of rise within yourself and express your inner self, your true beingness. And it's not a learned way of talking to yourself that's useful in any way. And a lot of people do this. A lot of people just have this habit of talking negatively about themselves. They say things to themselves that they would never say to their best friend or to their loved ones. So it's something you have to start identifying within yourself. It's something you have to start catching within yourself and interrupting and recalibrating so that you're developing a more useful internal talk, a more useful internal voice, a more useful, empowering, energizing, elevating way of talking to yourself silently. And it's something that you can do because you have the neurology and physiology that you have, because you have the ability to transform the way you think about yourself, the way to talk to yourself, by learning a new way to talk to yourself. It's something that you can do. It's not something that you're stuck with. This sort of judgmental, critical chatter is not something that you're stuck with, that you have to keep cycling and perpetuating in your neurology, in your physiology, in your day-to-day experience. And that's something to make note of, because one of the strategies you're given in sort of mainstream psychology right now to understand this critical inner voice, this inner critic, is, you're told to use tools like giving it a name so that you can create sort of a separation between you and this learned programming, this negative internal chatter. And while that's useful initially, what naming something does is it makes it seem like that it's an entity onto itself, that this inner critic, sort of deemed the subpersonality, is something that's separate or something that has a life of its own. And it's not. It is a learned way of talking to yourself that has been sort of unchecked, that's allowed to perpetuate itself, that's sort of allowed to keep running, to keep popping up. But the moment you bring your conscious awareness into it, the moment you start recognizing that that chatter is there, you can start to decide to dismantle it, to delete, erase, dissolve the loop narratives that have been cycling. It's not a creative program. It's not a program that comes up with something new, that creates, that evolves into, new dialogue. It's the same old tape that plays in the background that impacts you the way that impacts you. And the impact is tangible, right? Anytime you have that inner chatter pop up, that impact of diminishing your sense of being, diminishing your sense of capacity, capability, talent, skill, that impact is one that, sort of stifles or constricts or, again, diminishes your ability to fully self-express. So it's not a useful program by any means. So the goal, from my perspective, has to be to eliminate it, to completely undo that pattern of self-evaluation from your programming, from your day-to-day perspective. And, this goes to the same process of deprogramming old programs, deprogramming old beliefs, deprogramming old ways of looking at yourself, talking to yourself, looking at the world, and talking about the world. And that deprogramming starts with conscious awareness, first recognizing that you're running this program that we call the critical inner voice or the inner critic, and learning to recognize that you can decide to dissolve it, to eliminate it. And then from there, you create and perpetuate a new habit of talking to yourself in what I'll call the inner companion voice. You can call it the companion inner voice, or you can come up with a new name that highlights that the voice that you want to have sort of playing in the background is a voice that elevates you, a voice that affirms you, a voice that validates you, a voice that embodies and expresses the energy of unconditional love towards your own being. It's a voice that highlights how capable you are. It's a voice that highlights how you are enough just as you are, how you are worthy just as you are deserving just as you are, that there's not a single thing you need to change about yourself to be worthy, to be valuable, to be wonderful. So this inner companion voice is a way of talking to yourself that enhances your sense of self-love, that highlights your sense of appreciating your existence. You exist. That is a miracle in and of itself. The fact that you're here right now, the fact that you exist, the fact that you have your being in this moment at this time, the fact that you're a thinking, feeling being is a miracle. And the voice that you want to have running in the background is one that reminds you of that, one that reminds you of how brilliant you are, how you have infinite potential, how you're resourceful, you're smart, you can figure out whatever's coming your way. You want an inner voice that empowers you, that elevates you, that enlivens you, that energizes you, that mobilizes, fuels, and empowers the energy flow through your nervous system. That's the voice you want to program. And that's the voice you have to know you can program. That's the voice of your natural self. That's the voice of your original nature. This affirmative, life-affirming current of thinking that says, yes, you can. Yes, you are wonderful. Yes, you are amazing. Yes, you are lovable. Yes, you are worthy. And that in any given moment chimes in to validate you, to encourage you, to comfort you, to give you a compassionate space when you need it. So recognize that you can create a new internal voice for yourself, that you have the capacity to wire a completely new way of talking to yourself, that capacity is ingrained in your neuroplastic brain and in your malleable physiology. And recognize that you never have to have a critical inner thought that's directed at yourself or others ever again.